Hello, welcome to our webinar, Recent Developments at Iridium to Improve GMDSS and Anti-Piracy Communications and to better complement VSAT. So we're here today to talk about the requirements of the Global Maritime Distress and Safety System, GMDSS, and the GMDSS services from satellite communications operator Iridium. So you probably know the basics of GMDSS and the regulations already. Every ship above 300 gross tons is required to be capable of transmitting and receiving distress alerts by two separate and independent means, each using a different radio communication service. And there's various bands of radio you can use, and satellite communications is a form of radio. But if you want to use satellite communications, it's much simpler because you don't have the complexity of working with radio, but there's only two services approved from Inmarsat and from Iridium. Inmarsat was the only satellite service approved from the implementation of GMDSS in 1999 to 2018, when Iridium was also approved. And today, just about all large ships have the Inmarsat C service for GMDSS, but we're here today to talk more about the Iridium option. One advantage of Iridium's GMDSS system over Inmarsat C is that it can also carry voice calls, and it's quite easy to imagine why this might be helpful in an emergency, because the standard GMDSS text message is just sharing your ship's identification and position and status. But if you've ever had to call emergency services on land, you talk to a highly trained person whose role is partly to classify the call for what kind of response is appropriate. And you can see how useful two-way voice communication can be, also giving reassurance to the person who's calling. There's another advantage of Iridium, is that it's got coverage of the Arctic and Antarctic sea areas because the satellites are orbiting around the globe rather than geostationary. We're going to hear about some enhancements Iridium has made to the service to make it more helpful in piracy attacks, including a system for crew communications from the Citadel if the crew are unfortunate enough to have to use it. And you can also use the Iridium GMDSS equipment as a backup to the main broadband SATCOM system. We're going to hear today from Kyle Hurst, who's Director of Maritime Safety and Security Services for Iridium. He's based in Bedford, just outside London, and he's formerly worked for a number of other SATCOM companies and also in vessel monitoring and satellite tracking for the Solomon Islands and for Queensland. So we're going to have a talk of about 30-40 minutes, and there should be plenty of time for questions at the end, but you can put the questions in the Q&A box at any time. And I'd like to invite Kyle to start his talk. Cheers.
Hello, everyone. Good morning, good evening, maybe good night, perhaps. My name is Kyle Hurst. As Kyle said, I am the Director for Maritime Safety and Security, and that basically means most of my job is looking after Iridium GMDSS. I have a lot to get through today, so I will launch straight into it. Hopefully you find it entertaining. Looking at the agenda, I'm going to do a bit of a review of the current system that's in service right now. Then going to talk about the status now and in the future for our connection to rescue coordination centers around the world. Third item, going to look at a business update to see how the system's been going since our launch in 2020 and after the recognition in 2018. Fourth, we have some exciting news. The GMDSS Academy, the Iridium GMDSS Academy, very excited about that. So I'll talk about that. We also are going to talk about some upcoming case studies. So these are basically real-world examples on real-world vessels of how Iridium GMDSS is being used. So it's not people like me talking about the system. It's people that are actually out there in the maritime environment in potentially dangerous situations using the system. And finally, we're going to finish off with Citadel Communications, an area that we have been focused on this year. Yeah, hopefully some interesting revelations for people. So into it we go. Hopefully you know all about Iridium GMDSS, but if you don't, three key services. The distress alert is a simple data transmission. It has the identification, the status, and the position of the vessel in distress. So the identification, in the Iridium case, it's the MMSI, the Maritime Mobile Subscriber Identity. It has the status that the vessel's in distress, and it has the position, the latitude and longitude. That is great information and gives the rescue coordination centers some really good initial key information. but there is so much more to a search and rescue situation. And that's why we have safety voice. And as Carl said, we're the only system to currently have safety voice. And so it's a priority one call from the vessel to the Rescue Coordination Center. And how it works is when you press the red button on the Iridium GMDSS terminal, you hold it down for 3 seconds. After 3 seconds, it sets up an alarm while you're holding it down to make sure that you realize you're holding down the red button, you're not doing it accidentally. So the alarm goes off while you're holding it down for 3 seconds. Once it gets to 3 seconds, the alarm goes silent, the button stops flashing and it goes solid red. And the terminal indicates that it's now in distress mode. As soon as it enters distress mode, it fires off the distress alert, that basic information, through to the RCC. Now, once that message actually hits the Iridium ground station, the Iridium ground station sends an acknowledgement back to the terminal saying, I've got your message. As soon as the terminal gets that acknowledgement, it then initiates the safety voice call. How that works on the RCC is they get the distress alert to them, a big pop-up, red pop-up, large alarm goes off, loud alarm goes off, and they can see the basic details of vessel, its name, is in distress at XY location. And they have to acknowledge that transmission to say they're responsible for that distress alert. They have about 10 seconds to read the message, and then the phone call comes through. The phone call is key because, as I said before, that core information is great, but knowing for the RCC what is the nature of distress, how many people on board, what the crew are doing about the distress. All of these things allow the guys on shore, the Rescue Coordination Center, to know more about what's going on and then design appropriate response. You can probably imagine there is a massive difference between a small fishing vessel with 4 people on board and a large cruise ship with 4,000 people on board. So getting that information and designing a search and rescue plan, grabbing whatever assets they can and getting them to where they need to be is absolutely critical. So in that initial instance of the vessel calling back to shore, getting as much clear, concise information is key. And that's why we're very proud of that combination of the distress alert and the safety voice all happening at once. And the feedback we've got from the Rescue Coordination Centers has been excellent. It does, in their minds, make a big difference to how they can respond because they get a lot of very clear, concise information quickly. So they're the services that you use if you're in distress. The other service, Maritime Safety Information, through the Iridium broadcast system, Iridium SafetyCast, that's designed to stop you getting in distress. So there are 2 flavors, or 2 main flavors of Maritime Safety Information. It's navigational, which gives you indications of whether there might be a lighthouse that's not lit anymore, or a navigational mark that's moved, or some kind of navigational danger, say a semi-submerged container in a shipping channel. So they are key things about the marine environment, non-weather related things about the marine environment that mariners need to be aware of to keep themselves safe. Then on the weather side, meteorological, these are broadcasts every day, pretty much in all areas. You'll get 1 to 2 broadcasts every day, letting you know what the weather is currently like. But it also will send you urgent messages of a higher priority, which set off alarms on the terminal to let you know if there's any dangerous weather coming. So altogether, something to help you if you do get into trouble, but also something to try and keep you out of trouble. And the Maritime Safety Information is free as well. So that's a great service to have. Some other key features that we're very, very, very proud of. The distress alert relay. So you may know that when an RCC finds out there is a vessel in distress, one of the first things the RCC does is try to let everyone else around the vessel in distress know that someone near them may need help. This is often referred to as the distress alert relay. We have made some key additions to the distress alert relay. One key addition is that on the Iridium system, when they send out a distress alert relay, the RCC can actually observe on a map all of the Iridium-equipped vessels that are near the vessel in distress. So previously, under the older system, they'd have to wait for vessels to report in. So they'd send out a broadcast and say, hey, everyone, there's a vessel in distress at these coordinates. You're near it. Can you call us so we know where you are in relation to the vessel in distress? And then they get people calling in and then they can task them. With the Iridium system, they don't have to do that. They can actually see where they are in relation to the vessel in distress And the other big thing is, because we have voice, they can call them straight up and say, hey, you're closest, go 6 nautical miles east and go and help Kyle because Kyle's in trouble. And that's just one example of some of the other or some of the additions we've made. We also have ship-to-shore distress calling. So at any stage, if a vessel sees something that it's concerned about, say a red flare on the horizon, which is obviously a sign that a vessel's in distress, they can then call up the RCC and say, hey, we just observed this red flare. And the RCC can then potentially take action to work out what's going on. And the other two great services, which are not that well known about, but again, are free and you can use them for free if you're at sea. Medical advice and medical assistance, there's not a lot of difference between them. Medical advice is generally when you do not require a CASEVAC. Medical assistance is when you do require CASEVAC, a casualty evacuation. It doesn't matter which one you call. You generally go straight through to the RCC initially anyway. They will make an assessment about your casualty evacuation, and they will take over. So if you don't require casualty evacuation, they'll send you through the medical assistance or the medical facility to get care for the person until you get them back to shore. If you do require medical evacuation, then they will again send you through to the medical facility to get intermediate care until the casualty is evacuated. So again, great systems to use if you're in trouble. A view of the key benefits of Iridium GMDSS, simply put, are the 3 C's: cost, coverage, and capability. Carl said it before, absolute coverage. The Iridium system covers everything from the North Pole to the South Pole and everything in between. So we don't have any problems with coverage. Capability, we have a lot better capability. I've given you some examples, but there are other examples of how the Iridium system has a lot more capability packed into it to make sure that it can hopefully do more when it counts, when there's an emergency situation. And cost. Cost is important for everyone, of course, but having improved technology at a lower cost, we think helps maritime safety in general. A lower cost means it's more accessible. More people can afford to put it on board their vessel. And that for us is key. So we're very excited about the fact that we can make so much, steps forward and improve things, but we can also have a low cost service. And just looking at cost, just a cost comparison with the legacy technology, obviously it's a lower capability and higher cost for the Inmarsat C terminal, whereas with the Iridium system, it's a higher capability and lower cost. So exactly where you would want it to be. Okay, looking at rescue coordination centers around the world. So
we can't see your slides, Carl. Did you mean to be sharing them now?
Have I lost the sharing? Have I?
Yeah, well, we didn't have.
Okay, I didn't realize that. Can you see them now?
Yep.
Okay. I don't know why that stopped sharing. Do you want me to go back any?
I think it doesn't need it, but yeah.
Okay. With the rescue coordination centers, go back a slide. Under the IMO requirements 1001, we only require 1 RCC. But traditionally, you've had about 15 over the last 20 or so years. You've had about 15 RCCs connected to the GMDSS. We believe that having more RCCs connected to the system, our system, can improve response times and assist in information clarity. In other words, if you can go through to the RCC that's going to help you and not be handed around different RCCs, then that is best. For the Iridium system, there's no real limit to the amount of RCCs we can connect to the system. We could connect every single RCC in the world to the Iridium system, but obviously there's operational considerations there and IMO requirements in there as well. We are working as well to add more search and rescue areas to the Iridium system, and I'll go into this more later on, but we do believe that search and rescue areas can make a big difference with the capability of the Iridium GMDSS. So this is our current status, and I've just updated it today, actually. So we have on the left, that is our current list of operational rescue coordination centers. So we have 14 operational rescue coordination centers. You can see the two red ones at the bottom. They are the two latest to be added, Argentina and Morocco. They were added on the 1st of August. So there are two latest rescue coordination centers. Also, next to New Zealand, we have automatic next to it, and I'll explain that more, but that has to do with the search and rescue regions that we've just recently added. So 14 currently connected to the system. We have waiting 10 US rescue coordination centers, and you can see all the US rescue coordination centers there. Basically, the US Coast Guard, who is our sponsor, wants to connect all of their national rescue coordination centers to the Iridium system, and we're working on that as we speak. And then on the non-US RCCs, you can see there's quite a lot. And the red ones are more recent, so I think they've been added in the last month. You know, Africa, Asia, you name it, all over the place. And you can see a lot of them towards the bottom there are what we call French overseas territories. So the French government has asked us to add all of their RCCs that are in their French overseas territories. So Namibia in the Pacific, La Réunion in the Atlantic, Tahiti in the Pacific. So all around different oceans. So again, exciting stuff. So you can see there's a lot of RCCs that are waiting, and we are working diligently with them. And obviously it's not easy, but there's a regulatory step we have to go through. They have to have a what we call an EGC certificate. So they get permission from the IMO to be part of the GMDSS. Once we have a certificate, we go through training with them. We do multiple sets of training generally to, you know, because they have different people on different watches to train them all up. Then we do some testing with them to make sure they're confident in what they do. And then we work with the US government to bring them online, because as it stands, the US is responsible for rescue coordination under the Iridium system. So there's quite a lot to do there, but we are working through it. And we do think, you know, obviously the list on the left is going to be significantly larger at the end of the year. And hopefully the list on the right is lesser, or maybe we'll get more people on, who knows. Search and rescue regions. So these are the regions where inside that area, you are one RCC is responsible. So as it stands right now, if you have an Iridium system and you're in, say, Australia, and you press the red button, if you're in automatic mode, you would automatically go through to a US Coast Guard RCC. They will take all your details, and then they will pass you back to RCC Australia, pass the incident back to RCC Australia, and then RCC Australia would then coordinate the search and rescue response, because you're inside their search and rescue region. Obviously, it would be better if you went straight to RCC Australia, and that's what the search and rescue regions are all about. So once our system has all of the world's search and rescue regions programmed into it, you will basically go directly to the RCC that was responsible for the region that you're in. It does take some time, obviously drawing lines on the ocean. Sometimes that can be contentious, but we did have our first search and rescue, first two search and rescue regions allocated recently in the last month. So New Zealand, we've programmed in their area, which you can see in this picture is red. Basically, if you're a vessel with an Iridium system and you go into that red zone and you press the red button, you will automatically go through, and you're in automatic mode, you will automatically go through to RCC New Zealand. Also, New Zealand has an agreement with Fiji. And so if you're in the Fijian SRR, that purple zone, and you press the red button, you will also be allocated to RCC New Zealand. So that is the first two of many, and we're working on that. Just to highlight as well that the terminal has two modes. Automatic mode responds to SRRs, or search and rescue regions. Manual mode, you can set your terminal. If I'm in Australian waters and I never leave Australian waters, then I can just set my terminal to always go to Australia. So we call that manual mode, and you manually tell the terminal, no matter where I go, I want to go to RCC Australia, and they will that will happen. So you'll automatically go to Australia. So this is only affecting automatic mode, which is the standard mode of the terminal. And these search and rescue regions will react to these search and rescue to these areas once they're put into the system. So New Zealand and Fiji are the first two, but there are more to come in the future, and we're quite excited about that. Some upcoming changes in the SOLAS regulation. Satellite service ourselves were recognized, as Carl said, in 2018. We became operational in 2020, December 2020, and we are very much an alternative to Inmarsat-C. One of the big changes that's finally come about, and this is more about how IMO works. Sometimes they make changes that are written into SOLAS now, but they don't take effect for a number of years to give the industry time to get used to the change. And that's what happened with the A3 and A4 areas. So the change was made a while ago that instead of defining the A3 area by the Inmarsat coverage, the change was made that the A3 coverage will be defined by the equipment that a vessel has on board. So if you have an Inmarsat system on board, A3 does not include north and south, so you don't have access to those areas. I think it's above 76 degrees. So you know that those areas, the north and south, are technically outside of your coverage. So you have to have alternate systems if you want to go there. With the Iridium system, because we are absolutely global, we don't have to have alternate systems after the 1st of January 2024. There are two flags which already recognize the Iridium coverage, that's US and Liberia, but this will make it unilateral. And the fact that if you have dual Iridium terminals, there is no A4 area for you. That's the first thing. And number two, because there is no A4 area, you do not have to have dual MFHF radio capability. So that's a good step forward. So as it says, there's no need for second MFHF. And there's also some changes to NavTex coming into play as well. Key information for India. We did have a lot of feedback from some of our partners. They were concerned about the situation in India because some of the rulings that the Indian government have made historically. In particular, they were concerned that using Iridium GMDSS in the Indian territorial sea would be a problem. Everything that we had investigated, we were confident that it wasn't a problem, but there was push from our partners and industry to make it absolutely clear. So we worked with our regulator, IMSO, the International Mobile Satellite Organization, and they were great in helping us talk to the Indian government and get this new directive or new DGS order, Director General Shipping Order, number 9 of 2023. And basically it says what it says there. You can use Iridium GMDSS in the Indian territorial seas. So it clears up all doubt. So that was a great step forward to clarify the situation in that particular area. All right, general business update. Right, so this summer, it has been fantastic. It has been great to be responsible for Iridium GMDSS because it's been going so well and it's been great. That's all I can say. Great. Lots of activations and installations, demand well above last year. We have seen a lot of shipping companies moving towards Iridium GMDSS. Now, the strategies have been twofold. Either they're what we call the active strategy, so they're actively swapping Inmarsat-C terminals, which there's nothing wrong with them. They still work, but they want to have at least one Iridium GMDSS terminal. So they're taking off a working Inmarsat-C terminal and putting on an Iridium terminal. So swapping out perfectly good equipment. Passive, they're doing it on failure. So passive is more, if I have a failure, whenever a failure occurs, we'll swap out that failing Inmarsat-C terminal with a Iridium GMDSS terminal. I will say we've seen a significant shift from last year where it was predominantly passive, this year being predominantly active. And yeah, it's been great that that's happened for our program, but also it's been great talking to crew on board vessels, and they absolutely recognize the benefits of the Iridium system, how putting Iridium on board is a significant step forward for safety in relation to the legacy system and the legacy capability. Another demonstration of the confidence is, I would say, last year, 1 in 10 vessels were basically putting on dual Iridium GMDSS terminals. This year, we're looking more towards 1 in 5 vessels are putting on dual Iridium terminals. And one shipping company I know of is putting on Iridium exclusively across their entire fleet. So they want to have 2 Iridiums on board every vessel, which is a great vote of confidence in our technology and in what we've done and worked so hard to deliver over the last number of years. Another thing that people may not know about, but I think it's worthy of mention, is LRIT improvements. Traditionally, with LRIT, the crew could not tell if LRIT was working. It's just a black box. If it's working, it has a couple of lights on it. If it's not working, it has a couple of lights on it. There's nothing to tell you that LRIT is working. I will say on the current Iridium terminal, the LT3100S, you can actually go into menu system, go into LRIT, and you can see the ASP, or the application service provider, that's responsible for the vessel's reporting. So you can see the name of it, say Polestar or CLS. You can see the actual name of the ASP, and it actually tells you if you're reporting correctly. So yeah, I think that's a fantastic step forward and allows the crew to be aware that they are compliant or otherwise. But we haven't seen any cases where they're non-compliant. But it just gives them that extra level of confidence. Bit of a pictographic demonstration of how well things are. You can see the orange line was my target for the year to try and keep the Iridium GMDSS program on target. We're way over target. So you can see the performance and the trend is literally off the chart. So yeah, it has been a fantastic year, and that's just a good demonstration. Obviously, I can't give you the axis on the other side, but you can see that it's been very successful. This is the current Iridium GMDSS terminal, the LT3100S. A lot of love for this terminal out there because it is so small, compact, easy to install, but it is quite powerful. There is a lot of capability in this terminal, both for safety, GMDSS side, for security, for things like LRIT and SSAS, and for general comms and potentially backing up other comms. If all other comms fail, you've still got this very robust a piece of equipment that you can still call shore and talk to people and stay in contact. Talking about LRIT and SSAS, the terminal does expand out. So you need other hardware for the SSAS. So there's a thing called an interface unit. So you plug the interface unit into the control unit of the LT3100S, and you can plug potentially some of the existing buttons go straight into the terminal. You can check with your installer about that, or you can have new buttons, which is sometimes preferable if they've been around for a number of years. But yes, you can plug in the SSAS buttons into the interface unit, and then the terminal can also do SSAS, or it can be remotely programmed for LRIT and go to the ASPs. So you basically talk to your the ASP for your flag, and they can remotely program the LT3100S to comply with the LRIT requirements. That normally there's a compliance test you normally have to do for 24 hours. But that they can do that, they can handle that. And once the compliance test is completed, the ASP sends out a compliance test certificate, and then from that, compliance test report, and from that report, they can produce a compliance test certificate, or them or the flag. So yes, it is a rather simple process. So we've been talking about what we're looking at now with the LT3100S, but in the future, in fact, Q4 of next year, around about this time next year, hopefully, we will have the Certus range of Iridium maritime terminals, and they will have a GMDSS capability. So you can see all of the current manufacturers, so Cobham, Telion, Thales, and Lastron. They are all going to produce an Iridium GMDSS capable Certus terminal, and they will be coming out, or starting to come out Q4 next year. So in my view, you'll have the fastest L-band broadband terminal with the most technologically advanced GMDSS all combined in one package. So I think that's another great step forward. Right, the GMDSS Academy. So this is a facility to educate people about the Iridium GMDSS. So it's targeted at maritime training establishments and students. Obviously, the mariners of tomorrow, we want them to know about our technology, feel confident with our technology, and God forbid if they have to use it, they know how to use it correctly. It's focused on the Iridium network, how it works and the differences and compared to the past. The service capabilities, new and improved, again, things that we can do that haven't been able to be done previously through the Iridium system. Equipment features, exactly how it works. There are some very simple bits like the big red button. It's so tempting to push, but you shouldn't push unless you're in distress. So that is quite simple if you're in distress, but there are a number of other features that are in the system that you need a bit of background to work out. And the key things are those short codes for medical assistance. And knowing the numbers and how to get to those phone numbers and to be able to make those calls is key. So that's what training is all about. And obviously demonstrating to the potential crew of tomorrow how Iridium GMDSS can make a difference and how they can use the technology to get help quicker potentially. So that's coming by the end of this year, I believe, hopefully in the next couple of weeks. But obviously we want it to be right. But if you're interested, keep an eye on our social media and our website. We'll be obviously promoting it. And we think it'll be a great asset for the mariners of the future. Right. Upcoming case studies. This case study I really like. It's on a Norwegian fishing vessel called Lonigan. As you can imagine, fishing is one of the 3 most dangerous occupations in the world. In my view, if you're going to do dangerous occupation like that, as you can see the photo there with water coming over the gunnel, if you're going to do something dangerous like that, then you want to have the best safety system. So I'm really happy that these guys chose the Iridium GMDSS system, not once, but twice. So they've got 2 Iridium GMDSS terminals on board, a primary and a backup. That gives them a great capability if ever they're in, a situation, maybe one of those terminals gets damaged. There's an automatic capability that when an RCC tries to call the vessel, if the primary has been damaged and doesn't work, it'll automatically route the call to the secondary. So we've got built-in live redundancy. So yeah, it makes sense to me that in a dangerous occupation, you have very, very good systems to help you when you need it the most. So we have got that and other case studies out and about. We're producing more as we speak. But if you are working as part of a shipping company and you're interested in trying out Iridium GMDSS, we do have a program available for shipping companies that want to try Iridium GMDSS. So please talk to your service provider, your Iridium GMDSS service provider, or you can contact us directly and we can help you out with that. But we do actually have a promotional program to do trials on Iridium GMDSS. Other marketing information, we have a new sheet we're bringing out, Iridium GMDSS, giving safety a voice, which is just a general information sheet on Iridium GMDSS. It's going to be available through our partners, so please keep your eyes open for that. They should have it at various conferences and exhibitions. And the second one on the right, I'm extremely proud of. It wasn't my idea, I must admit. It was one of our partners. But basically, it's a simple sheet, double-sided sheet to show you, number one, how to correctly test your LT3100S, because obviously you shouldn't test it by pressing the red button and creating an actual distress. That's a very bad thing to do. There is a feature in the terminal where you can press the red button in a safe way. So you can see a green screen there. And by the way, there is a video on this in YouTube starring myself, hurrah. But this is a very simple sheet in case you don't have access to the internet while you're out at sea. A very simple sheet where you can follow the instructions and successfully test all features of the Iridium GMDSS terminal. Also, it has a list of those 4 short codes, the reporting of navigational dangers, calling to an RCC, and medical advice and medical assistance. So there's 4 free short codes. It has the actual short codes written there. You can access them through the menu, but sometimes it's just easy to press 3.9, send, and you go straight through to an RCC. But they're all on there. So it's a great feature to have for vessels to have on board to know how to test and how to use those short codes. Right, coming towards the end now, Citadel and anti-piracy communications. Now, we have had a focus on this year. We were involved earlier in Q1 with an incident. And if you know the traditional model of Citadel communications, so just to take it back, the Citadel is a safe room. So if there is some kind of attack on the vessel, the crew can all get down to the Citadel, hide away, and then help will come and push the bad people or arrest the bad people or push them off the vessel, and then the crew stays safe away from the bad people. And when they get to the Citadel room, we have Citadel communications. And traditionally, that's just been a simple phone line where they all get to the room, lock the door, lock themselves in, get on the phone, say, we've just been attacked by the bad guys, you know, maybe eye patches with a parrot in the shoulder, and we need help. And so the bad guys, their main objective is to grab the crew and use them, you know, for ransom or things like that. If they can't get a hold of the crew, then that devalues things very quickly. And also because they can't get a hold of the crew, it makes them a bit vulnerable, because then if good guys come along, and you know, they haven't got a hold of the crew, then they need to get off the ship very quickly. So that traditional model can work quite well. Unfortunately, in the incident we were dealing with, most of the crew made it to the Citadel. Unfortunately, not all of the crew did. And then the bad guys basically used the crew that didn't make it in as leverage to breach the Citadel. So basically come out or else. And unfortunately, they breached the Citadel and got everyone out. Now, that traditional communication system then lost its value because no one's in the Citadel anymore. So being able to call the Citadel or someone call from the Citadel doesn't work if there's no one in the Citadel. So that traditional model didn't work in this particular situation. There was a lot of communications and problems, a realization of what, you know, how did this happen? So we have been looking at this, and we're basically trying to come up with some solutions, or we have come up with some solutions. We've been working with a shipping company that we've worked with over the last couple of years, and we have done a significant amount of work to try and put forward a new model. And basically it's about, yes, we still have that traditional capability of voice, but if the Citadel isn't, you know, they don't make it to the Citadel, or the Citadel is breached, there are still systems to provide information to shore, because that's the rescue line. If people on board have enough information that they can act, then we can have a better outcome. If they don't have that information, then it's more difficult for them to act. And I must say, in the incident that we had towards the start of the year, unfortunately, the bad guys managed to get some of the crew off. And that was obviously not what we wanted, and not what anyone wanted apart from the bad guys. So we need to have potentially a better system for Citadel communications. So I won't go into it too much because I don't want to give too much away for various reasons, but you know, it's all about, basically there are multiple sensors that we have on board the vessel pushing information from the vessel back to shore so that the good guys can see what's going on, or have a very good idea of what's going on, and they can act decisively. And that is critical. Being able to have the information to be able to make the decisions and take action is key. And so we have done quite a lot of work to prove some of these things out. We're quite happy with where we are. And so if you're interested, please do contact us. But this is a role of the Iridium safety and security team, is looking into obviously potential innovation in safety and potential innovation in security. And we think we have something here, and so does the shipping company we're working with. So it's not just us. So the LT 4100S, so this is one of the lower or smaller Certus class terminals, so a new class terminal. It's IP, so 22 up, 88 down, long antenna cable, so up to 0.5 kilometer of antenna cable, so great for a Citadel communication. 2 voice lines and options for concealed antenna, which is fantastic, because obviously if the bad guys can see the antenna, then they can stop the antenna. But if they don't know the antenna's there, then they can't stop something they don't know about. So yes, great bit of equipment, and part of the core for what we've been looking at and designing. And we also have the Skylink Citadel equipment that's coming out soon. Similar covert antenna, Certus 100 capability, and linking into that vessel to provide a lifeline back to shore. All right, that's about it from me. I thank you very, very much. And yes, Carl, back to you.
No, that's great. Well, thank you very much, Kyle. Yeah, no, it was great. We've got four interesting questions, so I guess we'll go into those. So first is Charidemos Katagorakis, who's the ICT manager with Diam Lemnos Shipping Corporation. Can we use the same Iridium Certus device for vessel communications, such as mail electronic charts, as the GMDSS device? I think you said yes, but perhaps you'd like to give a longer answer to that, is it?
Yeah, so once we have the GMDSS capability with the Certus terminals, you'll basically be taking a normal Certus terminal, which you can do map updates, email, everything you would normally do, but you're adding these GMDSS peripherals. They're still separate to a great degree, so that SOLAS terminal can still be used for those commercial functions. But if you do get in distress, you can press the distress button and that works. And also you get maritime safety information through the terminal. So it's basically one piece of equipment with two separate interfaces, one for general commercial and one for safety, and also potentially one for security as well if you have LRIT or SSAS. So it's very much a multi-function terminal like we haven't seen before. Thank you.
Okay, so Lucas Bukima, he's a senior radio surveyor with Alphatron. When will all the nav areas and met areas be available? I think they're all available now, are they?
We still have some. A key one is Russia, but I think that's a broader issue right now. So areas 20, 21, and 13. So we're still working with the IMO EGC panel to get some of these areas online. Another one is Brazil, but we are doing a lot of work right now. I just like to remind people it's not an obligation of Iridium. It's an obligation of these coastal states to send MSI to Iridium, and then we broadcast it. And the obligation of the mariner is to have a piece of equipment that can receive these broadcasts. But yes, we do have some holdouts there with Russia, Brazil, and a couple of others. But we are working on that with the IMO, and the IMO, I think, in the next 12 months is going to make some very clear, concise decisions to protect the integrity of the system.
So does that mean at the moment you can't use Iridium in Russia, for example? Or?
I think in areas 20, 21, and 22, you can still use it. You might just have to have an alternate way to receive MSI in those areas. So it still works. It's just we can't broadcast what they're not sending us, if that makes sense.
Okay. So we've got some questions about Algeria. So Abdelhak Menazria is IT manager with Hyprox Shipping Company. First, he's asking, is there an Iridium provider in Algeria? And how can we set up a partner education program with Iridium Academy for their own training center in Algeria for our crew?
Okay, two-part question. I believe there are partners that operate in Algeria. I think the best way to contact or find that out is through the Lars Trana website, because it's actually their equipment. So effectively, you're contacting a Lars Trana GMDSS partner. So if you go to Lars Trana, you can get it through their website. If you're having trouble with that, please, you can contact Digital Ship and they can put you through to me and I can help you. But the information should be freely available through Lars Trana. And on the education program, yes, absolutely. Once the GMDSS Academy goes live, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, you'll be able to register to sort of, say, this is me and I want this information. And then you can download the full information package for your system. And there's also videos on YouTube and the Iridium website to back it up as well. So there is a lot of information out there now, or once we have the Academy launched, there'll be a lot of information for you. Thanks.
Okay, so Sunday Ogundeli, who's a seaman with the Maritime Foundation of India. So two questions. Is GMDSS Canadian different to the US? And most ship has not started using Iridium GSS. Why is it important to mount the Iridium GMDSS on the ship now? Not sure where we're going, but
okay. Is there any difference between the Canadian and the US system? No, it's a global system. It's all the one system, so it doesn't matter where the terminal goes to Canadian waters or US waters. It works everywhere. We do actually have many thousands of mariners already using Iridium GMDSS. So yes, shipping companies are putting it on now. So it's not we're not launching this soon. It's been launched since 2020, and people are putting it on now because they want the extra capability and the extra protection and the extra peace of mind that the Iridium system provides. So yes, it's definitely there now and has been for a couple of years now.
Okay, so now we're going to Italy. So Amaretti, so this is a Libero Ruggiero, who's the technical advisor with Amaretti Armatori, which is I think it's a tanker operator in Italy. So his question is, does SAS standalone system exist due to Italian flag requirements? I don't know why Italian flag wants to.
Yeah, I think some of the flags did have a problem in the old days with the GMDSS and the SSAS being on the same box. However, I will say all of those flags, and one of the reasons that is because they found on some hardware models, combining the two systems caused the software to get overloaded and the software would fail. We've done extensive testing with GMDSS and SSAS and LRIT all on one. And so as far as I know, all of the flags that had that previous restriction have dropped it for the Iridium GMDSS. I'm not sure about the Italian flag. We do, I'd have to speak to them specifically. But if they did say that, no, we definitely want it separate, technically, I don't think it's required anymore, but if they did require it separate, we do have separate systems for SSAS if required. But as I said, most of the flags have said, well, as long as it works and there are no problems, none of those historical issues, they're more than happy to accept it.
Okay, so we've got sort of similar question. We're going to buy now Daria Boyko, who is the Director of Distribution Channel with IEC Telecom. What happens if a shipping company only wants to use LRIT or certain GMDSS features without GMDSS? And she follows up. She means if you want LRIT or ship security alert system, but you don't want GMDSS, is that? Don't know why a shipping company would want that, but I guess they have their own reasons. Yeah.
I'm not sure either, but technically, we do have separate solutions. And by the way, hi, Daria. I know Daria very well. Known her for many years. I worked with her at one stage. So hi, Daria. Thank you for the question. Yes. If you wanted a separate standalone SSAS LRIT solution, it wouldn't be on the LT3100. You would, 3100S, I should say. You have to, with the LT3100S, you have to have, it's a GMDSS terminal. So you have to have GMDSS and LRIT or SSAS. So you can have a standard terminal with just GMDSS, or you can have a GMDSS and LRIT, or you can have GMDSS and SSAS, or you can have GMDSS and SSAS and LRIT all in one terminal, technically. But if you wanted to have just SSAS, there are separate solutions for that, not including the LT3100S. And if you wanted to have just LRIT, we have a separate solution for LRIT. Hopefully that all makes sense.
Okay, very good. So Isaac Adams in Ghana is asking how he can reach you, but I don't know if you're happy. We can share your email address to all the attendees afterwards if you want, or we can.
Yeah, or if they've got a contact through you, they can just probably contact you and you can pass the inquiry on, or you can go to the Iridium GMDSS website and put an inquiry in there and I will get that. They're generally sent to me. So, or I guess you can email me as well. I'll give you my email if you want to take a pen. Not you, Carl, the person who asked the question, but it's Kyle, Kyle.Hurst, Hurst @iridium.com. And I will do, or myself or one of my team will do our best to answer your questions.
Okay, so now we've got two questions. Isaac Adams. Oh no, another one from Isaac Adams. So yeah, do you have GMDSS centers in West Africa, South Atlantic, Pacific, Central America? I guess there must be, isn't it? Because of the last 20 years, but
Yeah,
it means Iridium specific GMDSS.
Yeah, I think if you're talking about rescue coordination centers, we have some and we're getting more. So I don't know if you saw the list, but we're getting Liberia set up. We're also talking to Kenya. Kenya's getting set up. We also have those remote French territories in the Atlantic. In the Pacific, we have New Zealand. Fiji is connected to New Zealand. We also have the French territory, Tahiti, and we're doing more and more out there, slowly but surely, and Australia as well. If you're talking about resellers, yes, in general, we have resellers throughout the world. If you go to our Iridium GMDSS website, you can, find the resellers through the buy thing. So if you say, I'm interested in perhaps buying Iridium GMDSS, it'll send you to one of our resellers. Or again, if you send me an email, I can, send you through to one of our resellers. We've done installations in some very remote parts of the earth so far. So, I'm sure I'm eager for the challenge. So send me your remote requirements.
Oh, very good. So Sunday Ugandeli is asking about how to develop knowledge and training. Is there a course on it? So you mentioned your GMDSS Academy. I don't know if you want to talk about sort of the substance of it. So was it sort of webinars and online material, or
it's online material, but basically it's designed to feed into the training establishments because the standard course is the GOC, the GMDSS Operator Certificate. So this information is meant to go into the training establishments so they can produce their own course material and then build it into their GOC certificate. And we've done a lot of work over the last 3 years working one-on-one with various training establishments, but we understand we haven't been able to touch every training establishment in the world. So that's what the Academy is doing. The Academy is going to basically provide a lot of information, and when these establishments need it, they can download it, then use that information to integrate it into their current course material, and then therefore they should, they can also integrate that with, simulators, or even they could buy an Iridium GMDSS terminal. Some of the schools have actually bought a terminal which they operate, not pressing the red button, but operate, and the students can get hands-on with it, but they integrate it into their course program. And then they obviously that's the best way to train the mariners, is not just throwing content at them, but having a teacher who understands the content and can apply the content and can run them through the content and guide them.
Well, as a sort of general question for me about, about the seafarer knowledge on this, I guess people learn this in the SCCTW training, but it's all changing so much over the years. So you wonder how much people would know, since it's not like day-to-day knowledge you need. It's only knowledge you need in an emergency.
I think the basics, like when I was at sea, we did our radio operators course and all of that, and a part of our maritime training, the concept of safety comms and GMDSS, that is there, it's solid. It's more about the specifics of how the Iridium particular service works. The fact that it is global, the fact that it has voice, and you can, this is when you activate it, this is what you do, this is what you would say. And it's more about procedural in relation to the specific system, rather than teaching them about safety comms, which they do anyway across multiple mediums, whether it's radio. I mean, I don't know if you know, but you can also technically, you've got flares, you've got flags, you've got EPIRBs, beacons, you've got, there's a lot to safety communication. So I think sometimes even I get locked into the satellite monocular focus on, it's all about satellite, but actual safety comms is very broad. And I remember when I was at sea, I got a bit confused when I was a junior mariner, and I said to the skipper at the time, well, with the radio and the satellite and then this and then that, which one do I use? And he goes, use them all. Whatever gets you rescued is the best one. So he was very much of the idea that, if you're in distress, you're in distress. So you're sending out flares, obviously making sure people can see them, you're activating various terminals, you're calling on the radio, you're doing a lot to make sure people are aware of your situation.
Yeah, we've got another one from Isaac Adams in Ghana. What minutes does the rescue teams respond to distress when there's a ship in distress? I guess that would vary quite a lot, but I don't know if you want to.
Yeah,
I guess sort of thing people want to
know. It does vary. It purely comes down to the capabilities, the location of the vessel in distress, and the capabilities of the assets that are there to address it. I couldn't even guess on that. I mean, many years ago when I was quite young, I think before I became a qualified mariner, I remember in Australia we had a guy who'd capsized his yacht in Antarctica, and it took them days to get to him, but they did actually get to him and rescue him by, basically hopping a helicopter across different vessels through the Antarctic. So, I think that's one of the things that mariners always need to be aware of, is how far are you away from rescue assets if you do get in trouble, because telling people about your situation is one part, but actually getting the assets to you to provide you assistance is the other. So, unknown, I'm afraid.
Yeah, so we've got a technical question. Well, Lucas from AlphaTron is asking, can you send me the update of the nav areas and meta areas? We're having some arguments with our Dutch authorities. Sounds like something to maybe take up on email after the webinar, I think. But
yeah, absolutely, Lucas. I think I've provided you my email, and if you missed it, you can contact us through the website or through Digital Ship. But yeah, I'm more than happy to talk to the Dutch authorities. We're actually enabling one at the Dutch RCC soon, so we do talk to them. Well, the ones we talk to. So we are talking to them. So yeah, more than happy to help out there. But sometimes it's just about understanding exactly what the situation is, and we've had a lot of misunderstanding, unfortunately, over the years. But that's part of my job, is to correct misunderstanding.
Okay, you may not be able to answer this last question. So you work for an American company subject to American rules. So the question is, Reza from Iran So commercial manager of industrial engineering service company is asking about Iranian sanctions, whether this will be an examination on Iranian shipping companies' safety items. I don't know if you're able to share. I imagine Iridium is not able to. Well, you're not. You're. I don't know. Yeah, actually, I don't know. I guess if you've got
Yeah,
any
I
people
think
around, you're able to.
Yeah, I think we're unable to provide commercial services due to sanctions. However, safety services, because they're free, don't come under this. So
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah.
technically, I believe an Iranian vessel could put Iridium GMDSS on board. It's just the commercial services wouldn't work. The safety services probably would, because under the IMO we're not allowed to stop the safety services to endanger crew lives and all that. But the commercial services would not be available because of the sanctions. So that's my understanding of the situation.
Yeah, I mean, the vendors of the terminals all over the world. So I mean, I guess probably I don't even know if we're allowed to discuss it, but I guess I don't know if the sanctions are the same for South Korean companies, for example, like Intellian.
Sanctions are sanctions, I think. So yeah, I think in any of this, I'd always probably have to get my lawyer involved. But I think in general, commercial services are out. We cannot provide commercial service because of the sanctions. But as far as I know, the safety services, they're not commercial services, and it's more about mariners than it's not about commercial services. So yeah.
Okay, we've got follow up from Abdul Haq Manazria from Hyproc in Algeria. Yeah, asking if you can give me the contact details for the provider in Algeria. He's saying AT Algeria. I don't know if he means in Algeria or that's a company name. But the full program of the Iridium Academy for the GMDSS. So I guess that's something you're working on.
Yeah,
could have a little bit of work after this webinar, following up with all these.
Yeah, possibly. Yeah. Okay, no problem.
Yeah, well, that's great. Well, we've got the last. Oh, there we go. We've got the last few minutes. We did miss slides 1 to 7, but you didn't seem to be referring to anything on your slides, so I didn't stop you. But
Okay.
we stop your sharing now. But I don't know if you want to bring it up quickly and check if there's anything that you want to share with the audience from the 1 to 7.
So here we go. Just quickly. So did we see this slide?
No, I think it was slide 7 was when I said I didn't notice you weren't. I think you described all this in your talking, so I guess nothing on the slides you didn't describe.
Right, so I didn't miss a huge amount.
No.
So I think this is where you realized I was showing slides and you couldn't see them, was when I said, and you didn't see on the slide. Okay. Yeah. Well, there's the slide that you missed, everyone. So a rather interesting demonstration of the difference. So yeah. But anyway, thank you very, very much to everyone for joining the webinar today. Sorry about the slight technical issue. Thank you very much for Digital Ship for hosting it, and thank you very, very much for all the people with interesting questions. It's great. Otherwise, if you don't get questions, sometimes it can be a bit lonely. So thank you.
Yeah, that was great. Well, it's a subject we never covered before, and looks like there's enormous interest and a lot of things going on. So that's very interesting. So thanks everyone for watching, and thanks for Carl. We're going to send everybody a link to the YouTube video, including the slides. And our next webinar is next week on the 10th of October with OPSI-log, looking at data with a case study of vessel performance for an offshore shipping company. And you can book online at our website. And that's the end of the webinar. Well, see you next week. Thank you very much. Cheers. Bye-bye.
Bye for now.